Today, I'm going to try to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Y playing as Gym Leader Sabrina using her best possible team from her actual appearances in the main series games. For this run, we're going to be able to get one new random encounter per every badge that we obtain. And I'm going to keep her team members as secret until we actually get them. And we'll also be allowed to use her two best alternates as well to make it a more reasonable challenge. Sabrina is known as a very powerful psychic trainer and her roster is exceptionally cool. But I do foresee some tough matchups ahead with this monotype setup. If you want to see more trainer runs, make sure to smash that like button and let me know what trainer you want to see next. Let's see if we can beat Pokemon Y as Sabrina with only one new encounter per badge obtained, no items in battle, level caps in place, and the battle mode unset at all times. Alright, it's time to begin our journey through the Kalos region. Using my psychic powers, I'm getting a weird sense that there's going to be two Nimrods waiting for me outside of my front door.
Wow!
After having our new friends call us Saffron Queen from now on, it's time to pick our very own starter Pokemon. And you know, I always wished I could be given such a great host of choices in my real life. And then, luckily, one day I stumbled upon today's sponsor, Holzkern. You see, just like the Beldum that I'm going to select as our starter, Holzkern is an absolute gem in the watch, jewelry, and accessory industry, creating completely unique products made from natural materials like wood and stone. Like our dear Beldum's nature, I was naive to think I couldn't easily find my mom a stellar Mother's Day gift that I think she's gonna absolutely love. I could not resist, so I also got my fiance the olive and gold mirror necklace. And I can genuinely say I haven't seen her so thrilled with a gift since the day that I proposed to her. As the esteemed Professor Sycamore gets us set off on our journey, you know I wanted to set off into the world looking even half as stylish as him. And I mean, come on, he's literally named after a tree, so I got myself a gift as well. This legendary walnut and marble watch. This thing is a complete beauty, and I've already gotten a couple comments admiring and asking about it. There are just so many good things I can say about Holzkern. With over 1 million happy customers, an astonishing 1,000 plus designs, a 24-month warranty on all their watches, bandlets, and jewelry, their wood is also FSC certified, meaning no deforestation. If you're looking for a complete, unique, and ethical place to shop, look no further. Use my link in the description or scan the QR code, and using my code SILF, you'll get 15% off your purchase. With free worldwide 2 to 5 day shipping, order by May 7th to get your Holzkern products delivered by Mother's Day and make your mom just as happy as my player character's mom that we're finally moving out. Okay, I kid. I think she still loves us, but seriously, do not miss out. Well, normally I don't fear the initial Shauna battle here at the start of the game, as it's meant to be an introductory one for new players, but this time I am very fearful. Why, you might ask? Well, Beldum's only attack is Takedown, which despite being quite powerful has lower accuracy and recoil damage too. But her Chespin tried to use Growl and our Clear Body ability canceled it out immediately. Beautiful, as Takedown is doing great damage and we resist Tackle as well, but 3 hits bring her to a sliver with us below half already. She hits us once more to just 6 HP, then we can take her down, and thankfully the recoil only did 1 HP damage on that hit since she was on a sliver, so we make it through. Damn, that was nerve-wracking, as getting KO'd by recoil after KOing her would have still counted as a loss. Wow, the Pokemon went inside the Pokeball? What? No, Shauna. Pokeballs are merely a tool to repeatedly smash the Pokemon to death, you're right. Oh man, time for the infamous Pikachu trainer in the Santaloon Forest. This thing has ended runs of ours before, with it being level 5, having stab or same type attack but as Thundershock, and having static, which of course paralyzes us after our first hit on her. Although like Shauna, she made the mistake of trying Growl on us first so we could tank an attack well and make it through paralysis to KO. Whew. A trek through the forest has us arrive in Santaloon City, the location of the very first gym in the game. And after a bit of training and making it through all the trainers safely, we arrive at the first gym leader, Viola, the bug-type expert. Now I am very happy we got the one randomly selected starter who is not weak to bug, but I still foresee this being a major challenge. She leads with a Surskit and Bubble hits us for a whopping 7 HP off the bat, followed by our takedown recoil doing 4 more on us. Yikes, we're already brought to just 12 HP after a mere Surskit goes down. Unfortunately, Beldum literally only ever learns Takedown in its entire level up move pool, so, the moment Vivillon came in and used Infestation, I knew it was over, with technically 2 separate residual damage types bringing Beldum down. Ouch. Attempt 1 is over. Starting the game over, this time I was granted a Slowpoke as our starter with a plus special defense and minus special attack nature. Not very good at all, but at least we're able to resist Surskit's attacks. And we have our one hope, Curse, which I plan to raise our attack and defense with repeatedly. Surskit acts as a great buffer to be able to do so, and I get 3 of them off before bringing her to the red with Tackle. Then we can waste her potion and hit her with another to take her down. In comes the big threat, Vivillon, and I am still hoping she doesn't use super effective Infestation, as residual damage would not care about our defense raises, but miraculously she kept going for Tackle, and our +3 Tackle is way more powerful than hers at this point, eventually giving us the W. Man oh man, a mere Infestation would have made that way more risky, but who knew bringing a Pokemon weak to the gym leader's type would actually be the answer. First badge acquired. For winning, we get our very first reward encounter too, and grabbing an egg from the PC, it ends up hatching into a why not. I can't say that's what I was hoping for, but it has a hasty plus speed and minus defense nature, pretty bad if you're familiar with how its evolution operates. Regardless, we can at least grab the XP share from Viola's sister while leaving the city, which is going to be crucial as there's almost no other way to have a level 1 why not level up. In the gate up north, we run into Dexio and Cena, who give us the return TM, always handy, and then we enter the massive Lumio City. And boy does this ever have me excited for Legends ZA. I'm so curious to see what that game's going to be like. In the Prof's lab, we're challenged by Sycamore himself, who is always tricky with the 3 Kanto starters. And leading off with a Bulbasaur against our part water type does not feel right. But thankfully, I was able to level her up to 14, where she learned Confusion, both stab and super effective against it, doing huge damage after he hit us with Vine Whip. We only get hit with a Tackle from there before we can take him down, fortunately not having him Leech Seed us, which is what I was really worried about. From there, Squirtle couldn't do much besides lower our defense with Tail Whip, but he's also a pretty bulky boy, so it took a while to confusion him to the KO. Although a crit did help, and he did get a crit to bring us below half too. His final Pokemon is then Charmander, who scratched us to a quarter, survived Water Gun, and then used Smokescreen, which made me very nervous, but Slowpoke pulls through for the KO. Could have been a disaster if our accuracy drop affected us. What in the world? I guess the Kanto starters he gives us got randomized somehow. Reminds me of my grandma's cooking, to be honest. No, not that we used to eat Nidoran. I mean, with all the random ingredients. Okay, you know what? Never mind. Now, normally the TMs available for purchase in the Pokemon Center here are great scores, but for us, they're kind of useless and way expensive right now, so we're gonna move on. In one of the cafes, we run into Diantha and Lysander is pretty much grilling her because she's inevitably not going to remain as beautiful as she is for her whole life. Evil world domination plans? Nah, I think he's just releasing a new skincare line. Moving ahead, we have our very first evolution of the run as Why Not evolves into a Wobbuffet via friendship. Oh, it looks like Lysander's skincare line already gained popularity. And I must say, she had a stellar debut performance doing absolutely nothing in a forced double battle, but against a Swords Dancing Corphish from Tierno, she does incredibly, being able to return double damage using counter even through paralysis. There might be some hope for you yet, you blue blob thing. Arriving in Camphor Town, we can then get the Thief TM, critical for getting some items that you otherwise can't get off of wild Pokemon. And not only that, but to the southwest, we get to break into the Berry Farm, finally getting some useful held items like Oranberries. Man oh man, this game has Unova references like crazy. There was Sycamore's office, then the entirety of Parfum Palace is just covered in them. Unova confirmed. Waking up the sleeping Snorlax almost always feels like a mistake. This thing is a ridiculous challenge in the early game, but for once we have a great counter. Well, Wobbuffet's counter move, of course, doing just over half after his tackle, although his berry did make this a bit more tedious than necessary, but Wobbuffet pulled it off quite well despite getting taken below half and paralyzed by Lick. Somehow that was still a close call with a fully evolved bulky as hell Pokemon with counter. Wild. Our journey then brings us to Ambret Town, where we can grab the Rock Smash HM, but not only that, also the Rocky Helmet, which I'm imagining should be a great item for a Pokemon like Wobbuffet, who can't actually output any of her own damage. Okay, riding a Rhyhorn on a rocky cliff is the least Sabrina thing imaginable. I don't think she's having a fun time. And even less of a fun time awaits us, as up next is the Glittering Cave. Yes, there is the Shadow Claw TM, but there's also N64 Ocarina of Time camera controls, but with the terrible level being raised by a factor of 7. Get me out of here! Oh, and Dark-type Houndour with Bite was a terrifying prospect in here too, but thankfully Slowpoke's water typing saved us. With that, we arrive in Silage City where the second gym is. And finding some random cave nearby, this guy blamed us for not being able to get past.
I'm like, what he said? me for?
And gave us the frustration TM just to make his point clear. That's just petty, man. Well, after engaging in what is definitely one of Sabrina's favorite hobbies, rock climbing, we can arrive at the top where Gym Leader Grant awaits us with his rock types. And this was a tricky one to plan for, I can tell you that much. He leads with his Amora, so I go in with Slowpoke to begin with. And he immediately paralyzes us with Thunder Wave. And we stay paralyzed. Oh great. He then misses takedown as super effective water gun hardly does anything. What? Takedown then hits and gives him recoil as we nearly bring him to half with another. He missed again though, which actually isn't good as we need that recoil damage on him, and he misses again before we bring him to a sliver with another. Unfortunately, this exactly triggers his super potion which heals him fully, meaning we need to repeat that process now while paralyzed. Ugh. At least this time he does get a fair amount of recoil damage, and our Oranberry did help at one point, but still. By the time we took that damn thing down, we were left at half and paralyzed as the big threat, Tyrant, then came out. Not only does it have strong jaw boosted super effective bite, but its part dragon typing means it's not weak to water, so I have to switch. As Wobbuffet comes out, bite does huge damage to nearly half, and this is it. We need him to not crit and not get the flinch. And he gets neither, thankfully, allowing Wobbuffet to return double damage with counter and end Grant's career. Holy, that was close. 2 badges in the bag. Or case, you know what I mean. With that, our second reward encounter opens up, and I'm hoping for something good as hatching it gives us an Abra with a serious neutral nature. It only knows teleport, what is with psychic types and being so useless early on, but we will be able to evolve it almost immediately with the help of the XP share, giving us a wicked Kadabra which I'm now very excited for. And the next route gives us some wicked power-ups for it, as not only can we find the Thunder Wave TM here by completing a strength puzzle, but also the Mind Plate to boost the power of psychic moves, perfect for our team. While trying to leave Geosench Town, we're then stopped by Corinna, who challenges us to battle, and yes, she's a fighting trainer, but her 2 Lucario are not weak to Psychic thanks to their steel typing, so this is still pretty dangerous, especially given that they have Swords Dance and Power-Up Punch. With that said, resistance to fighting combined with being able to send Wobbuffet out there and encore the first one into Swords Dance means we can then switch in Kadabra safely and nail it with a couple Mind Plate boosted confusions, but even 2 aren't enough as his encore ends. But thank God it just went for Metal Sound, so another KOs. Her second one could then be baited into the same kind of thing with another Wobbuffet switch, although this time we encored it into Metal Sound, even better so Kadabra could get the job done even easier the second time around thanks to confusion too. Not bad, this team's starting to come together. Not only that, but the next route also has citrus berries for us, opening up our recovery capabilities quite substantially. Arriving in Shallower City is always bittersweet, as I know to get one of the best items in the game, I have to do an insane amount of Pokedex work every time, as it requires 40 Pokemon seen just in the coastal region, but we eventually get it done and are rewarded with the Eviolite, which increases defenses of non-fully evolved Pokemon, which I'm imagining should be perfect for such a speedy and powerful yet frail Pokemon like Kadabra. Man, I watched the Rings of Power show recently, any Lord of the Rings fans out there? And I've got to say, this Tower of Mastery area strikingly reminds me of Numenor. The resemblance is just uncanny. In here comes something I'm quite fearful of, a battle with our rival, Callum, and he's got a terrifying member on his team at this point. He leads with a Meowstic though, so I get Wobbuffet out there. I know his Meowstic has some weird non-damaging moves, so I decide to just go for Encore and lock it into Light Screen. Nice, that works. Now I can freely switch into Slowpoke with the Eviolite attached and get a Yawn off without any risk. Then proceed to go for Curse 3 times in a row. He stays asleep the entire time, so I start tagging him with Water Pulse, which does shockingly little, as he then wakes up and hits us with Disarming Voice. It's a back and forth slugfest here, and I'm really hoping we'll get the Water Pulse confusion, but somehow after 6 hits we don't get it and are brought below half before taking him down. Are you kidding me? Well, why all the setup, you might ask? It's because of this thing, his Absol, a massive threat to our entire team. But now, with us never having gotten confusion on the damn Meowstic, I have to switch regardless, as it has super luck and a crit would be devastating from here. So I go into Wobbuffet, who's fortunately able to tank even crit slashes and quick attacks to counter him twice for the KO. Guess that works too. Then comes his final Pokemon, his Frogadier, which fortunately does not have the Dark type yet, and using Mirror Coat on his special Water Pulse, just barely doesn't KO on a sliver. Yikes. Our only switch option remaining is Kadabra, and he went for Quick Attack twice in a row to bring us to half before a final Psybeam does the job. Well, I'm glad we found a way out of that mess. Clearing out both the tower and the Shallower City gym has us arrive at the third gym leader, Corinna, the fighting specialist, and for once I feel like we might have an easier time. She leads with a Mienfoo, and the obvious answer here is Kadabra with the Eviolite attached, outspeeding and one-hit KOing it with her newly learned Psybeam, with her only getting a mere fake out on us in the process. The same then goes for her Machoke too, getting wiped off the map as her ace then comes in, Hawlucha. Now this thing is incredibly fast and hits a flying press, but with the help of Eviolite and resistance it doesn't even bring her to half, as we can then one-hit KO her with a Psybeam crit, although I'm pretty sure it would have gotten the range without it. 3 badges already, we're looking pretty good so far. At the top of the tower we're then given the Mega Bracelet, which I have a feeling is going to come in handy later on, and I cannot wait until it does. For winning in the gym, we can grab our next reward encounter, and this time hatching it gives us a Sigilyph, which has a naughty plus attack and minus special defense nature. Pretty bad, but hey, getting a fully evolved Pokemon from an egg is not something we can complain about. And not only that, but some huge power-ups lie ahead, such as the Survey Gem that Callum gives us, amazing for Slowpoke, and using it to get across Route 13 we can grab one of the best items in the game, the Leftovers, for some incredible recovery. Let's go. Arrival in Coumarine City also lets us pick up some other cool items like the Odd Incense to boost psychic moves, the Silk Scarf for normal moves, and the Metronome to boost moves used repeatedly. Right before the next gym, we're challenged by Callum again, but fortunately his team composition hasn't changed much. So I employ the exact same strategy as last time, except we have the additional benefit of Surf, which gives us some reasonable power with Slowpoke now, so we can take Meowstic down and then actually stay in against Absol. But he crit us with Slash to the red before we got a Surf off. Yikes, that was a close one, but Wobbuffet handles it from there with Counter, and it's in fact Sigilyph who can clutch it out against Frogadier with Air Cutter and Psybeam from there. And not only does our new team member have a great debut performance, but she's also able to clutch her way through the Coumarine Gym with all its grass trainers, as Stab's super effective Air Cutter was able to do quite a great job in addition to our resistance to the type. Reaching the top of the giant tree, we can then challenge Ramos, the 4th gym leader. He leads with a Jumpluff and I get Sigilyph on the field. As fast as we are, Jumpluff is even faster, nailing us with acrobatics for a third before Air Cutter barely doesn't KO on a Sliver. Damn. He then heals fully, but thankfully we get the proper range this time to take him down. Clean. Then comes Go-Goat, which doesn't really have a great option for damaging us, as Air Cutter does over half and then Takedown brings us to about a third, so we can land another to KO after his recoil. His final Pokemon is a Weepinbell, and not wanting to risk an acid crit, I know I can safely switch into Kadabra to absorb the attack and get the Stab super effective Psybeam one-hit KO. Beautiful. For that badge, we can grab our next encounter, this time hatching to give us an Eevee, which ends up having a Calm plus special defense and minus attack nature. Not bad. It of course isn't a psychic type yet, however with the help of the Soothe Bell from Shallower City, we can now evolve it by friendship during the daytime to give us a monster Espeon. Quite a fast and powerful psychic type. Taking on Team Flare in the power plant has us face a whole host of dark types, but Slowpoke and Sigilyph did help a ton with their coverage moves, along with Wobbuffet coming in clutch when necessary to unleash some mirror attacks. I'm not stuck, it's just that a pleasantly cool breeze drifts through here. Yeah, okay, that's incredibly suspicious behavior. Oh, wait a minute, you're right! Well, it's no surprise Sabrina's jaw dropped to the floor here. She does like her men tall, after all. This reminds me of the Mountain and his wife. Oh yay, the fake Eiffel Tower is saved. Actually, I think I'd like it better if it wasn't, then we wouldn't have to crawl up the whole damn thing to get to the gym leader. Well, while training up, we can finally have our trusty Slowpoke evolve into a Slowbro right at the level cap of 37. Although, given the gym leader's typing, I don't think she'll be of much use. What I think will be of use is the Dig TM that we found, as it turns out Espeon can actually learn it. Wicked. With that, we can hit up the 5th gym leader, Clement, the electric trainer. He leads with an Emolga, and I lead with our newly obtained Espeon. This is a bit dangerous, as 2 of our Pokemon are weak to electric, so I'm gonna have Espeon put in some work, outspeeding a base 103 speed Pokemon and unleashing with a base 130 special attack, 90 power Stab Psychic to immediately one-hit KO it. Unreal. In comes a big threat though, Magneton, which resists Psychic, but I'm gonna hit it regardless as it has Sturdy that we need to break. Amazingly, Psychic seems to have done half, but to guarantee the range, I'm gonna hit it with a 4 times super effective Dig. That's huge, as now all that's left is Heliolisk. and Psychic does huge damage to it to a third, whereas Electric Terrain boosted Thunderbolt also slams us hard, but I knew there was nothing we could switch into. But it doesn't get a crit, so yet again we can outspeed a base 109 speed Pokemon for the victory and the 5th badge. Now that was one of the best debut performances we've ever had in the channel's history. Go Espeon, go! Not only that, but yet another new team member can join the fray, as our next reward egg hatches into a Beldum with a naive plus speed and minus special defense nature. Hopefully he's gotten over his trauma from our first attempt. Oh, hey Sycamore! Lysander is a great man.
Are you sure about that?
With some training under her belt, our beloved Beldum evolves into a Metang, which I'm imagining should be a great Eviolite candidate, especially given that its final evolution is at a fairly late level. Heading north to Route 14, we're challenged by Callum again, but this time, in executing our strategy, we have a giant power-up. As Slowbro is of course now fully evolved, and Encoring Meowstic into Light Screen goes swimmingly, allowing us to curse up and end at nearly full health with the help of our leftovers this time around, meaning by the time Absol comes out we're able to quite easily withstand its attacks and 2-hit KO it with Surf. Now one difference here is that Callum's starter is now fully evolved into a Greninja, meaning it's part Dark type. But fortunately at this point it doesn't actually have a Dark move, so we can slug it out Water move versus Water move, with our sheer bulk ultimately netting us the victory. Along the way into the next city we can pick up items like the Damp Rock and the Toxic TM before hitting up the Haunted House. The only thing scarier than this place is the fact that Interstellar is getting a re-release in movie theaters, because I'm never gonna leave, just purchasing tickets endlessly until my bank account says 0. Ah, damn it. I thought this was a free ticket, but it's just a spell tag. Maybe I can sell it for more Interstellar tickets. I like the movie, okay? Leave me alone. Entering the Laver City Gym, I notice there are shrooms everywhere. Huh. I guess I know why Valerie is the way that she is. Speaking of which, it's time for the 6th gym leader, the fairy type expert, Valerie. And I think we do have a good counter for her, but she does have some tricks up her sleeve. She leads with a Mawile, and I get Wobbuffet on the field. She goes for Iron Defense right away, which is a bit tricky, and I had just gone for Charm to scout out what she was gonna do. Unfortunately, she then hits a Crunch, and gets a crit, but our Rocky Helmet combined with Counter obliterate her in return. Then comes Mr. Mime, who I know will almost undoubtedly set up screens, so I encore her into it. Then I can switch into our Eviolite Metang, who can safely go for Power Up Punch to get a sliver of damage, but more importantly raise our attack. I know we have resistance against all of her attacks too, so even though she got a crit, I can get our attack to +3 before landing a stab super effective priority bullet punch for the auto KO. And with our sky high attack, even it as a 40 power move is enough to one-hit KO her ace, Sylveon, as well, resisting her Dazzling Gleam in the process. And not only does that win us the badge, but we also get a crucial TM for her, exactly that Dazzling Gleam, which if you think about it should be a phenomenal way to counter threatening dark types. Huh, you know, I have a feeling more people would watch the news if it was like this. I mean the hologram, not because, okay, never mind. Oh hey look, it's my biggest fan. Actually that's a windmill. Mamoswine, would you stop? I just want to go to the next Arriving in the majestic Anastar City, I hit up the Pokemon Center right away because there's a girl in here who gives you some good TMs, but she gives us Psych Up. I was really wanting Flamethrower, but I guess we'll have to come back later. Right before the next gym, we have the penultimate battle with Callum, and suddenly he has 4 Pokemon, and all 4 of them have a super effective move against our entire team, with 60 to 80 power. That makes things a bit more dangerous, I'd say. So I opt to go grab our new encounter from our Laver badge, which ends up hatching into a Ralts with a hardy neutral nature. You know what? Maybe this can work as I add it to our team in place of Espeon for now. In no time we can evolve it into a Kirlia, and then again using a Dawnstone that we could find on Route 3 using Surf into a beastly Gallade. Not only that, but flying back to Dendemel Town we can have the move relearner teach it some unbelievable moves, like Close Combat, Leaf Blade, Night Slash, Sword Stance, and even Psycho Cut too. That is a ridiculously good relearn move pool. All powered up and ready to go, it's time to take on Callum with a completely new strategy. I lead with Gallade against his Meowstic, taking a chance on what I think he might do. And he does. He goes for Fake Out to flinch us, which activates our Steadfast ability and raises our speed. Let's go! As we then hit a super effective Night Slash, but somehow it doesn't KO, and Shadow Ball smashes us right to half after Hail, but our Berry heals us substantially. Hitting it once more gets the KO, as in comes Flareon next, and with our speed raise we can outspeed and one-hit KO it with an unfathomably powerful close combat. And here's the key, with our raised speed we can outspeed even his Greninja and Absol. And I use Leaf Blade to take down Greninja in case his Absol went for priority quick attack, since close combat does lower your defenses. And playing it safe allows us to one-hit KO his Absol with no problem. Now that's one way to handle dark types with a Psychic team. Another stellar debut performance. Shortly after the battle we have a really cool evolution as Metang finally fully evolves into a monster Metagross, one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Making our way through the Anistar Gym has us arrive at the 7th gym leader, Olympia, our Psychic type arch nemesis. Against her Sigilyph I lead with Slowbro, and she does get Light Screen off, which isn't great for us, but I use Yawn to have it get put to sleep after the next turn, with Air Slash hitting us and Surf hitting her. Now I can make a slightly risky play of switching into Gallade, who is weak to Air Slash, but has great special defense stats, and I know if I can just get one Swords Dance off, which we do with her still asleep, it's game over, as we can now outspeed and smash all 3 of her Pokemon with the +2 Night Slash one-hit KO to win the battle in a clean sweep. You love to see it. For winning, we also get the Calm Mind TM, one of the best imaginable for this team. With the 7th badge in hand, and her finally having learned Psychic by level up, it's now time to trade evolve our Kadabra into a Savage Alakazam. A huge upgrade in speed and power, and I also teach her the Charge Beam TM for a particular reason. Well, with Lysander finally having outed himself as being evil, it's time to battle him in his Lumiose hideout. And he is almost inevitably a tough battle every time you face him, but this time I think I have a great strategy and matchup. He leads with a Mere Mienfoo, so Alakazam can wipe it off the face of the earth with Psychic. Murkrow is then a big threat as well, but I can go for Charge Beam, smashing it for the one-hit KO and raising our special attack too. This then gives us enough power to one-hit KO his Pyroar as well, and then another monster comes out, Gyarados, but with Intimidate not mattering to us and 4x super effective Charge Beam in hand, it had no hope as our newly evolved Spoonholder gets the clean sweep. Wowza. Throughout the hideout, we encounter a ton of scary Pokemon for our team like Weavile, Houndoom, etc., but Gallade's neutrality to Dark allows us to tank their attacks, fortunately with no crit in this case as I couldn't have switched into anything else, and respawn with the close combat auto KO. Following that, the ultimate weapon goes absolutely nuts, and whoever thought to build a town right on top of it was crazy. I mean, just look at the damage it's doing. Also, I love how the houses just like tip over. One of the funniest design choices ever made in any game. At the bottom of the Geosenge hideout, Lysander starts crying about him having to kill all the Pokemon. I mean, my dude, you could also just not. We battle him again, this time with some evolutions on his side. As such, I had to upgrade our strategy a little bit, attaching the Expert Belt on Alakazam to get some crucial ranges, but also, after outspeeding his Mienshao for the one-hit KO, we're not quite able to one-hit KO Pyroar with Psychic, but our special defense comes in handy, taking just over half with the Fire Blast, only due to the burn, which Synchronize of course can't return since he's a fire type. But one more attack does the trick. In comes his Honchkrow, which Charge Beam would not be able to handle actually, but I taught her Dazzling Gleam as well, getting the super effective KO and saving our lives. We're on incredibly low health, but the Expert Belt gives us just the range to be able to KO Gyarados with full EVs. Whew, definitely getting scarier. And once again, throughout the Team Flare battles, Gallade proves to be an amazing asset with that fighting coverage for dark types and psychic coverage for poison types. Making it to the bottom, we then endure some Yveltal madness, quite literally the scariest Pokemon imaginable for our entire team. Even Gallade with that flying typing, but the game forces you to catch it so the Master Ball saves us. Problem being, I had Gallade out in front, and I forgot you can't switch your team around before the final Lysander battle. Uh-oh. He leads with his Mienshao again, and I have to switch as it has acrobatics. So I go into our absolute wall, Slowbro, who even tanks a crit quite well, especially after leftovers. Now I know I can yawn it, stalling by using Amnesia until it falls asleep, but he did get a Swords Dance off, and then I switch into Espeon. And I was thinking, I think it's better to use Charm here to get rid of Swords Dance's effect just in case he wakes up, and he stays asleep anyway. Great, as I can now use Calm Mind to raise our special stats, but then he wakes up and smashes us with High Jump Kick for over a third before we can land the Psychic to KO. With the Calm Mind boost, we're even able to one-hit KO Pyroar with Psychic despite not being super effective, and amazingly, Espeon can also learn Dazzling Gleam, so Honchkrow was handled effectively. Then comes his final Pokemon, Gyarados. However, in a worst-case scenario, it turns out Lysander has a Mega Stone and Mega Evolves it into a Water and Dark type. But a +1 super effective Dazzling Gleam hits, and somehow doesn't KO on a Sliver, and it lands the Aqua Tail, and gets a crit to take Espeon down. Are you kidding me? Our first death of the run, and what an unfortunate one. At least from there, we could merely outspeed it with Gallade to seal the deal. A very rough loss, but hey, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. With Wobbuffet back on our team now, we grab some great TMs like Brick Break and Shadow Ball before eventually being challenged by Professor Sycamore again. As if he didn't do enough damage by letting Lysander run around unchecked. Regardless, we have a great answer to him, Sigilyph, who resists all of Venusaur's moves and can 2-hit KO it with Psychic, then get a crit on Blastoise so he merely gets an Iron Defense off before a second one KOs as well. His final Pokemon is Charizard, for which I switch into Slowbro, the ultimate Charizard counter, drowning it away in 2 Surfs after taking 3 attacks and getting burned. With that win under our belt, we can tackle the Route 19 bridge, where our 3 friends challenge us to battle consecutively, and these battles can be quite tricky indeed since you're not able to heal between the first 2 and can't change your Pokemon order at all. Regardless, Alakazam can blast through Shauna's Delcatty with Psychic, Goodra with 2 Dazzling Gleams, and Chestnut of course with a stab super effective expert belt boosted 135 base special attack, 90 power Psychic.
Bye bye!
Tierno was then a switch into Slowbro on his powerful Talonflame lead, which I knew would bait Roserade out, so I switch into Gallade to tank Petal Dance and respond with the Psycho Cut KO, leading right into his part Dark-type Crawdaunt, which of course cannot handle a close combat. Trevor, on the other hand, had his Raichu taken down in a Psychic, then Aerodactyl was hard countered by a switch into Metagross for a couple bullet punches through confusion despite his Crunch hit, and finally his Florges was annihilated by a stab super effective Meteor Mash. Our team has some really good synergy now. After picking up the Energy Ball on Route 20 and making our way through the extraordinarily tedious Snowbell City gym puzzle, it's time for the 8th and final gym leader, Wulfric the Ice Master. Plainly speaking, we have a Gallade, so bye-bye Abomasnow and Cryogonal to close combat. Then his ace, Avalugg, neglected my calcs entirely and barely survived one, and with our lowered defenses, we better be extremely thankful he just went for Curse instead. So even after he healed, we could hit 2 more for the KO and our final badge. Whew, played a little overconfidently there. Okay, as cool as she looks, never before did I think I'd see Sabrina going ice surfing. Oh jeez, I guess it's called skating, isn't it? With that, we can grab our final reward encounter, which hatches and gives us an Execute with a Calm plus Special Defense and minus Attack Nature. As much as I love Exeggutor, I don't think it will be of much use for what we have ahead, so I'm gonna stick with our current team unless we need it. Well, we've arrived at our penultimate challenge, the long and perilous Victory Road. Along the way through, we can find the Psyshock TM, which might come in handy before arriving near the end, where our rival Callum awaits for one final battle with an additional team member this time around, which makes a Gallade sweep very tricky. He leads with his trusty Meowstic, and this time I lead with Slowbro to get the yawn off, and we actually got hit quite hard by Shadow Ball to below half before he fell asleep. I then send out Gallade for the Swords Dance, but he woke up immediately and tagged us with a super effective Shadow Ball. I have no choice though, so I stay in to tank another before our berry after getting a second one off, and with +4 attack, I think we should now have enough power to get the sweep. Taking down Meowstic with Night Slash, then his new Altaria comes in, and indeed, Stab Psycho Cut gets the range. The only risk now is Greninja getting a flinch with Dark Pulse, but he doesn't, so another close combat nails him. At this point, with our defense drops, we are in range of a quick attack from his remaining Pokemon. So I opt to switch into Sigilyph, but he went for Lava Plume, so now we can't complete the KO as he hits 2 bites hard to just 9 HP, since we barely didn't get the 2-hit KO somehow. Regardless, knowing he'd quick attack, I switch into Alakazam to tank it, then go for Charge Beam to finish him off knowing we could get the special attack raise, but it misses, then he slams us with Bite, and we survive on just 14 HP in the red before our berry. Goodness gracious! I keep forgetting that Charge Beam isn't 100% accuracy, and I accidentally clicked it again while panicking, but we did hit it. Sheesh. I can then go for the +1 Dazzling Gleam to annihilate his Absol and win us the battle. Okay, way too many close calls there. Well, with that now behind us, we arrive at our final destination, the Kalos Region Pokemon League. Man, I don't know why they forced you to get your shoes all wet here. Extra challenge to do the league while severely uncomfortable, I guess? After fulfilling the rest of our AVs, getting any remaining items and TMs we might need, including a very special one, and strategizing like a madman, it's time for the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is actually an incredibly tricky one, Malva, the Fire-type expert. You see, her lead Pyroar has rivalry which increases damage against Pokemon of the same gender, which is brutal for our case, especially with Dark Pulse, so I had no choice but to lead with Gallade for the instant close combat one-hit KO. Problem is, that allows her to freely bring in Talonflame, but a Slowbro switch is a reasonable counter, tanking 2 Brave Birds in a row below half with the help of leftovers, to then respond with the Surf one-hit KO. But then, in comes a massive threat that I could only think of one way to deal with, and that's a maybe, Chandelure. A stab super effective Shadow Ball from a base 145 special attack Pokemon is a massive threat no matter what way you spin it. But I have one answer, Wobbuffet with a Kasib Berry which weakens the first one's power. But then, she goes for Confuse Ray on the next turn, not Shadow Ball as I thought. Oh no. And we hit ourselves in confusion twice in a row as she uses Confide several times for some reason. We then snap out, but she lands Confuse Ray again, and it takes several turns, but she finally hits a Shadow Ball, and we survive on just 11 HP, and miraculously make it through confusion for the Mirror Code Obliteration. Oh man, that was insane. Her final Pokemon is Torkoal, and Gallade seems to be our only real answer here, tanking a few attacks and hitting her twice with Psycho Cut, but she then uses Curse to raise her physical stats, so I switch into Sigilyph trying to predict Earthquake, but she went for Curse again, opening up an opportunity to KO with Psychic and win the battle. That was an utterly wild battle, but we made it through. The second Elite Four member is Wickstrom, the Steel-type expert, and he leads with a little trickster, Klefki. This thing has Torment, which means setting up against it is nearly impossible, but I lead with Slowbro and use Yawn off the bat. I then hit it with Surf on the next turn after getting hit by Dazzling Gleam, bringing it right to half before he falls asleep. Now's my chance as I switch into Gallade to start Swords Dancing, with it only waking up to get a Spikes off after 2 Swords Dances. Then I use Leaf Blade to KO so we don't drop our defenses. In comes Aegislash next, and King's Shield would have been very tricky to lower our attack, but he didn't use it, so Night Slash gets the instant one-hit KO. Then comes Probopass, and I merely hit it with a Night Slash to break it sturdy, get hit by Flash Cannon for not much, then land another to KO. His final Pokemon is Scizor, and it had no hope against a +4 close combat, earning Gallade quite the sweep. The third Elite Four member is Drasna, the Dragon expert, and it took me a while to account for her team formulation, but I think I came up with a workable plan. She leads with a Dragalge, and I get Sigilyph out there. I immediately set up Light Screen, which allows us to tank Thunderbolt reasonably well. Then I go for Stab super effective Psychic, but it's not enough as we then get brought below half before our berry. From there though, another one can KO, after which she brings out her Altaria. And here's the key. I taught Sigilyph the Ice Beam TM from Wolfric, so having a 4-time super effective move to one-hit KO both it and her Noivern is fantastic, only getting hit by a Dragon Pulse by the latter to below half in the process. Her final Pokemon is Druddigon, and this thing actually started creating immense problems with Dragon Tail, continually switching out Pokemon that I intend to have out there, and getting big damage off on some of them too. Rough Skin combined with it brought Gallade below half, but it brought back out Metagross, who could Meteor Mash it to finish off the battle quite cleanly. The last Elite Four member is Seabold, the Water Trainer, and I have a devious plan for him. You see, normally Alakazam's Megastone is only available in the post-game, but since Sabrina does have one as part of her best team, I figured we'd be allowed to use it after getting our 8th badge. And use it we most certainly will, as I taught her the Energy Ball TM too, as a rampaging Mega Alakazam is able to outspeed and decimate his Clawitzer and Barbarical with it, then take down even his Gyarados with a 4-time super effective Charge Beam, even getting the special attack boost to guarantee the Energy Ball one-hit KO on Starmie too, a Pokemon that's usually almost impossible to outspeed. Let's go. Well, it's time. The final battle, the champion of the Kalos region, Diantha, who has an extremely versatile team. With all the planning in place and having used our remaining rare candies, let's go for it. She leads with a Hawlucha, and my plan here is to unleash Mega Alakazam at full power to do as much damage as she possibly can against her team, in preparation for our other team members. Hawlucha immediately gets downed by Psychic, tracing its Limber ability so we can't get paralyzed. Then Gourgeist was tagged with the one-hit KO Shadow Ball I taught her before the battle. Tyrantrum couldn't handle getting blasted with Dazzling Gleam. Then Aurorus came in, which could handle anything we have with its massive special defense, but I taught her the 4-time super effective Focus Blast TM, which we surprisingly hit for the one-hit KO. Oh man. Goodra is also a bulky beyond belief Pokemon, so Dazzling Gleam only brings her below half, but I know Dragon Pulse is the best she's got, which we eat up. I then preemptively switch into Metagross, knowing she'll try another and not use Fire Blast, so an Outspeed Meteor Mash from there finishes her. Then, all of a sudden, it's time for her final Pokemon, her Gardevoir, which she promptly Mega Evolves into a complete special monster. But with our speed investment, we can unleash a stab super effective 135 base attack, 90 power Meteor Mash to obliterate it and win us the championship once and for all. Wow, we did it. We beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Y with only Sabrina's best team, and what a team it was, nearly getting through the whole thing deathless. So close. I hope you enjoyed the adventure as much as I did, and I'll see you guys next time for another challenge video.